And anyway, we're going to have a great time. And again, that information's up on the Facebook site. If you want to go check it out and you want to get some tickets, you can contact First Baptist Church of Hendersonville. I know one thing. We have a great time when we do outdoorsman banquets, don't we?
Yes.
And if you like to talk hunting and fishing, you will be in the right place, that's for sure. And again, you can go to the Facebook site. All that stuff's up on there. And then on today's show, we have Derek McCarson. Now, one of the unforeseen problems that I had was I found out that Derek is related to Sam. Well, he's your cousin-in-law?
Yeah, we can say that.
Cousin-in-law?
Yeah. And you just found out
I know.
today while we were here because you didn't tell me his name.
I told you, Derek, and I told you I was reading this awesome book.
I don't think you did.
I did on Sunday. He's getting old and feeble. I don't know how long his radio career is going to be.
Well, you're going to be stuck with me, so.
Well, we're going to have fun, people, I'm telling you. Anyway, I'm excited about having Derek here. I wrote that in the comments on Facebook that just the pre-radio chat that we've been having going on has been really awesome, and I can't wait till we get into our next segment and I get to interview him. Sam and I get to interview him. He's got a book out that's called Origins. And my wife, Miss Kathy, actually got to meet him at a book signing. Was over at Greenleaf, I believe, the bookstore over at Biltmore Mall. And she brought the book home to me, and I read it because I eat this stuff up. You guys know this. If you've listened to our show even a little bit, you know how much creation science we talk about. I think it's important that outdoorsmen have meat on the bone when it comes to Romans 1:20, for since the beginning of time, right? That God's creation is clearly seen by the things he's been made, so that man is without excuse. Without excuse for what? Having a relationship with him. And that's why we go deep on the parts that's about, when we're hanging out in God's great land of the wild. Anyway, Derek writes, and he's encountered, as we're sitting here, I'm listening to this, powerful critics of the Bible. But he counters with powerful new evidence from the world of astronomy, microbiology, and physics, which all point to the undeniable fact that we are here by divine design. And readers will be challenged by his book with fascinating information that confirms Genesis 1:1. And we're just going to be skimming the treetops, folks. There's no way we can get into the depth and breadth. I've read so many creation science books. My wife can attest to this. I never put them down. I never quit watching videos. But I'm going to tell you, he brought up things. For the young guy that he is, he brought up things that I've never heard anybody else bring up, and I thought, man, that's some deep thinking stuff, and I'm a deep thinker, I think.
You are.
You like that, right? I am because I am. And anyway, you all are really going to enjoy this, and if you're an outdoorsman and struggling with the hangover of evolution, there's no need to do that. I mean, in this day and age, the information day and age that we live in, there's so much information out there. The other great thing I liked about Derek's book is it was really simple to read. He didn't get, some books get so deep. I've read some about Einstein's theory of evolution. I actually watched a DVD on a couple professors, and they were talking about warped space and stuff, and I was like, wow. I picked up, like the book of Revelations, I picked up tidbits here and there, but it wasn't, a lot of it wasn't sticking. I mean, these guys were brainiacs. Christian scientists who loved Jesus Christ and were so intelligent that I was sort of like, all right, Lord, I'm getting it. These guys know something.
I think as the day you came in with that funky hairdo.
Yeah.
Like Einstein there.
No, I had just taken my hat off.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and then on the outdoor segment, we're going to talk, this is a true story, I know because I was there. We're going to be talking about a turkey and the fooled fox, and no, I will not be talking about you, Sam.
You're talking about a turkey, so you must be talking about yourself.
Well, that might be true, too. At least I want to be one come around April 13th, 14th, is it? Opening day? Yeah, I want that big Tom to think I'm a turkey. But right now, we're going to take a partner break, and then we'll be right back with our guest, Derek McCarson, and we'll be talking to him about his book, Origins, and about the book of Genesis. You can check it all out online at facebook.com, Brent Robert Outdoors. We'll see you after these messages.
Supporting the local community. WGNW 95.7, The Choice.
95.7 The Choice would like to thank Dry Pros for their generous support. Dry Pros has 27 years of experience in the cleaning, restoration, mold remediation, and waterproofing of homes and businesses just like yours. Whether it's a routine cleaning or restoration from flood damage or mold, the team at Dry Pros has the experience to get it done right the first time. Cleaning all types of floors, windows, fine area rugs, and upholstery, they cover it all. For more information, their number is 828-277-9511. That's 828-277-9511, or visit them on the web at www.drypros.com. That's www.drypros.com.
Programming at 95.7 The Choice is made possible with the generous support of business partners like Area 22 Guitars. Area 22 Guitars is Western North Carolina's only boutique guitar shop. Whether it's an American-made all-tube hand-wired amp like Matchless, Divided by 13, Carr, or Fargen, or a U.S.-built custom luthier electric guitar brand like Anderson, PWE, Zion, Rowan, or Gatto, Area 22 Guitars specializes in the unique needs of the discerning musician. They carry a full line of boutique effect pedals like Keeley, Exotic, Rockbox, Menatone, and Wampler. And their acoustic guitars include Breedlove, Larrivee, Eastman, Bedell, and Crafter. Area 22 Guitars, not your average guitar shop. For more information, go to area22guitars.com or call them at 828-884-2222. That's 828-884-2222.
.7 The Choice would like to express our thanks to our business supporters like Ichiban School of Self-Defense. Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts provides a safe, family-oriented environment for people of all ages and skill levels to be able to train and prosper, both mentally and physically. Whether your interests are physical fitness, self-defense, competition, or just a healthy outlet for stress release, Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts will provide the tools to reach your goal. Their programs provide a well-rounded, athletic approach to martial arts in a safe, fun, family environment. For more information, go to ichibanmma.com. That's ichibanmma.com, or call them at 828-423-0662. That's 828-423-0662.
Oh, man, that's me. That's a cue. When the music runs out and you're sitting here wondering what day it is, yeah. All right, we're back. Welcome to the Brent Robert Outdoor Show on 95.7 The Choice. I'm your guide. I'm here in the studio with my co-host, Sam, and our guest today is Derek McCarson, and we're going to be talking about origins. Derek, welcome to the Brent Robert Outdoor Show.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here.
Have you had fun so far?
Oh, yeah, I had a blast.
This is like Comedy Central, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Man, and as soon as old John flips the switch off, it's sort of like Battle of the Words here, man. But anyway, you can find out more about Derek. I've got some posted up there, but I'm going to be posting up a lot more stuff as we go through on Facebook.com, Brent Robert Outdoors. And Derek, before we get into talking about your book, Origins and Genesis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm a hometown boy. Actually, I grew up in Candler and went to Inca High School, graduated in 2002. Was very active in church growing up. Attended Pole Creek Baptist Church.
Okay, cool.
And so I'm from around here. And then after I graduated from high school, went off to UNC Chapel Hill and had my heart set on studying history and being a history teacher.
Right.
And in fact, was able to do that a little bit here in Western North Carolina. Taught for a year or so at North Buncombe High School, and then at the same time, the Lord was opening all kinds of doors for ministry, and I felt His call for ministry. And in 2009, I went to Liberty Baptist Church and started there as a youth pastor, and then
right.
That's where I'm at now as a pastor, and Lord's just really blessed my life. Got married in 2011 to my beautiful wife, Caitlin. We're expecting our first child
Oh, great.
later on this year, and so that's, the Lord has just poured it on big time in my life.
Well, that's good, and there's nothing like children, right, Sam? I
That's
mean,
right.
they'll
That's
teach
right.
you a lot.
And
I mean,
there's nothing like having a good wife either.
oh,
That's
that's
true.
the
You know,
truth.
I think every one of us married up, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the goal.
I keep telling
Well.
all my friends in my congregation that I pulled a tremendous upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we've all got to say that because they're all three sitting right here looking at us. And
Yeah.
so-
But, well, let me ask you this then. Where did your interest in finding out about the creation and evolution debate originate?
Yeah, good question. As I was telling you and talking with you earlier before the show started, a lot of my desire to get into apologetics and to really know what I believe and why I believe it was really born out of a crisis of faith, or more or less, that I encountered when I went to secular university.
Right.
Because, I grew up in the church. I was a youth group kid, and so I thought that I knew the Bible pretty well. And lo and behold, when I got out into UNC and Western and all these different colleges that I attended, I found out that there really was no substance to my faith. It was, I hadn't really done my homework, so to speak.
Right.
So, of course, when I went into a biology class of, the first year there in freshman year, it's all about evolution.
Exactly.
And they're going to tell you there that we're all evolved, highly evolved primates with opposable thumbs and larger brains, and you're not really unique and special in the cosmic order of things. Then, of course, you go into the philosophy class, and they use logic and reason, and so we would study the great philosophers of history, and of course they all would show you that there was no way that a rational person could believe in miracles. Then, of course, you go into a religion class, and I sat under Bart Ehrman, who many of you have probably seen him on the History Channel or read some of his best-selling books. He, on the first day of class, a matter of fact, he stood up in front of our auditorium there of about 400 students and said, I'm here today to make you question everything that you think you might know about the Bible and Jesus. And so he spent the whole semester really just tearing the Bible to shreds and
Right.
destroying the historical Jesus. And so in the midst of that sort of storm of, what do I really believe, it's sort of what drove me to really get into studying more the apologetic side of Christianity, connecting the heart and the mind, and putting a foundation to my faith. And so out of that whole experience, God brought me through that. And I'm proud to say that none of the professors, Bart Ehrman, none of those guys at UNC, they didn't win. I belong to Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And God actually, I think about that scripture in Genesis where Joseph is standing there at his brothers and he's saying, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. I can look back on that situation in my life and say, you know what, the world and the devil, they meant that for evil in my life, but God actually turned it around and has just changed my life through that.
Amen. And that's clearly evident by what I've read in your book and the short time that I've met you. And I really don't want to say this, but I know Sam real well. So just what Sam thinks, thought of you and stuff when he saw you and stuff like that. So let me do this. You wrote this. In many ways, Christians, you actually said in many ways the church have bought into Satan's clever story. The Christian mind has been hijacked by the lies of evolution. Christians tried to reconcile and even accommodate evolution with creationism. My question is there a problem with this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The biggest problem with that is that the evolutionary worldview and the worldview that the Bible reports in the first 11 chapters of Genesis are just completely incompatible. And so they don't mix. It's like oil and water. And there are a lot of Christians who try and do a lot of mental gymnastics to get around what the Bible actually says. and smuggle in really man's thinking
Right.
into God's story.
Absolutely.
And this is happening not only in the world. We see that when we listen to the talking heads of our culture, when we watch the History Channel, Discovery Channel. But Christians watch this stuff, and then
Yeah.
they become inundated with it. And then when their pastor stands up to preach on sin or the creation story or whatever, they have already this system, this world system, this way of thinking that is preventing them and putting question marks where God has put periods.
Yeah.
And that's the way Satan works. Is he doesn't just come at you with a big story and his whole plan. He's going to mix a little bit of lie
Right.
with a lot of truth.
Right.
And you're going to start buying the truth, and you don't even see the lie.
Mhm.
It's hidden right in front of you. And that's what a lot of Christians have done.
Absolutely.
Is they accept this little part of evolution and work it into God's plan. And before you know it, you're accepting a lot of these liberal shows as truth, and they're really not.
Well, and then you give somebody that can really manipulate that, like the professor he was talking about, and before you know it, you're shot down because you're really not standing on anything solid.
Mm-hmm.
You're standing on half truth,
Yeah.
and when it's not the truth. It's not. I am the way and the truth and the life truth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's false.
Mhm.
And when that's shot down, all of a sudden you're left looking at that, and you know what? You're looking at a lie that's been shot down, not the truth. So let me ask you this then: can we really believe in biblical text in view of our modern world of science? I mean, science says we evolved, and I know people take that as, and I say it again, you've heard me say it 100 times, people drink the Kool-Aid and think that we have evolved, and we haven't really, have it. Matter of fact, if we were to look at Richard Dawkins today and ask him to give us one example of an amoeba gaining DNA type of information, what do you think his answer would be? Is there any truth to that, Derek?
Well, to go back to your original question, can we trust the Bible in relationship to science of our day? And I would say absolutely. And I say this in the book, the Bible isn't a science textbook, but when it does report on scientific issues, it's absolutely correct on everything that it says.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do your homework into microbiology, if you do your homework in astronomy, whether you're looking in the microscope or whether you're looking up in the telescope, there is evidence of God's grand design all around us. And Romans 1:20 is completely true, that we are without excuse because the creation reveals his invisible attributes, as Paul wrote. And so, if you begin to look at the evolutionary worldview, which basically says, time plus matter plus chance equals you, or what I have said before, that it's from goo to you via the zoo.
Yeah.
That if you look at that worldview, it's really bankrupt. Not only in the evidence that it purported that it says that it has for its worldview, but also in just forming a moral framework for how do I know what's right and wrong, and how do I be a just person, a virtuous person. So I would say absolutely yes, the Bible is completely valid on all scientific issues.
Absolutely, because if ultimately if there's no moral authority, God, okay, then you as an evolutionist, you can complain all you want about murder, but there's no ultimate authority at that time. All it is a bunch of mistakes that turned out to be the three of us sitting in here talking on the radio. Okay, I had this conversation with a guy today at lunch, but I won't get into that. Right now we're going to need to take a break. If you'd like to listen to a rebroadcast of this show, you can go to www.957thechoice and follow the Ustream links to Brent Robert Outdoors. And you're listening to the Brent Robert Outdoor Show on 95.7 The Choice, and we'll be right back with more Derek McCarson, and we're talking to him about the book he authored called Origins.
Supporting the local community. WGNW 95.7 The Choice.
95.7 The Choice would like to thank Dry Pros for their generous support. Dry Pros has 27 years of experience in the cleaning, restoration, mold remediation, and waterproofing of homes and businesses just like yours. Whether it's a routine cleaning or restoration from flood damage or mold, the team at Dry Pros has the experience to get it done right the first time. Cleaning all types of floors, windows, fine area rugs, and upholstery, they cover it all. For more information, their number is 828-277-9511. That's 828-277-9511, or visit them on the web at www.drypros.com. That's www.drypros.com.
Programming at 95.7 The Choice is made possible with the generous support of business partners like Area 22 Guitars. Area 22 Guitars is Western North Carolina's only boutique guitar shop. Whether it's an American-made all-tube hand-wired amp like Matchless, Divided by 13, Carr, or Fargen, or a U.S.-built custom luthier electric guitar brand like Anderson, PWE, Zion, Rowan, or Gatto, Area 22 Guitars specializes in the unique needs of the discerning musician. They carry a full line of boutique effect pedals like Keeley, Exotic, Rockbox, Menatone, and Wampler. And their acoustic guitars include Breedlove, Larrivee, Eastman, Bedell, and Crafter. Area 22 Guitars, not your average guitar shop. For more information, go to area22guitars.com or call them at 828-884-2222. That's 828-884-2222.
.7 The Choice would like to express our thanks to our business supporters like Ichiban School of Self-Defense. Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts provides a safe, family-oriented environment for people of all ages and skill levels to be able to train and prosper, both mentally and physically. Whether your interests are physical fitness, self-defense, competition, or just a healthy outlet for stress release, Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts will provide the tools to reach your goal. Their programs provide a well-rounded athletic approach to martial arts in a safe, fun, family environment. For more information, go to ichibanmma.com. That's ichibanmma.com, or call them at 828-423-0662. That's 828-423-0662.
All right, here we go. All right, man, I'm going to dive back into it and eliminate a lot of the clutter and stuff like that, because I want to make sure I get you guys a bunch of Derek, okay? Because I can't tell you enough. You need to go over to the Green Tree bookstore over there at Biltmore and get the book by Derek McCarson, author of the book Origins, and it's an in-depth study of Genesis chapters 1 through 11, but don't let that intimidate you, because it's a really nice read. Be great for your teenagers. In this day and age when 80% are leaving the church, okay, because the foundations we're talking about, Derek, are falling apart, it's good to see a young guy that has went the other direction and said, wait 1 minute, let me self-educate and find out exactly, and you've done that in the book, right? So tell me, what was the purpose of the book of Genesis as you wrote about it in Origins? What do you think God's purpose was for the book of Genesis?
Right. Well, the purpose is really wrapped up in the title, right? Genesis is the book of beginnings, and it tells us, how we got here and why we are in the state that we are in as humanity. And basically, I think in the book I boil it down to 4 C's, and this is what the beginning prologue of Genesis boils down to. Creation, all right, that's Genesis 1 and 2. Corruption, that is the scene there in Genesis 3 where we have the fall and the introduction of sin. And then we have catastrophe, that's the story of Noah's Ark and the flood. And then we have confusion, and that's really Genesis 11, and that's where we see the dispersion of the human tribes and languages. So it really sets the foundation for the rest of the Bible. And then in chapter 12 in Genesis, we see the covenant that God makes with Abraham, and promising that he will be the father of a great nation. And
right.
Then all that, of course, is pointing forward and leading up to the Messiah. the one who was prophesied of in Genesis 3:15 that would come along and crush the head of the serpent.
Right.
And obviously that's Jesus Christ, and he did that on the cross. He defeated Satan and purchased for us our salvation.
Now, and in the New Testament, I think I read you talked about too how Genesis was one of the most quoted books in the New Testament.
Right. That's interesting. Actually, if you do some study, you find out that Genesis 1 through 11 are actually some of the most quoted passages by Jesus and the New Testament writers, which is really interesting because that's where the skeptics train most of their crosshairs on. They want to attack the first 11 chapters, the creation and the original sin and Noah's Ark. They want to throw all that aside. But if you do that, and if you're a Christian listening to this and you have trouble with that, then you need to realize that you're going to be at odds with Jesus. Yeah. Because Jesus and the apostles affirmed most of what all of actually that we see in Genesis 1 through 11.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about creation out of nothing, ex nihilo.
Right. Creation ex nihilo. That is the whole Christian worldview, and that is the idea that God created the universe completely and totally out of nothing. And we were talking about the relationship of Genesis 1:1 to science. Well, that's what astronomy has discovered in the 20th century. One of the greatest discoveries that Einstein and Hubble and all these giants in the world of physics and astronomy have found is that very truth, is that you hear it today in the modern term as the Big Bang. Well, you can't have a Big Bang unless you have a Big Banger, right? And so all these scientists and great thinkers have only come to the conclusion that Genesis 1:1 is actually spot on with what science is revealing about the nature of our universe, and that is that once there was nothing, and then, hey, it got here.
Yeah.
And the thing with that is Stephen Hawking just wrote a book about what he thought was the unifying factor of the universe, and he came down to the conclusion that it was gravity. Well, you know what? You got a real problem with that, Hawking, because gravity is a law, and you can't have a law without a lawgiver. Somebody had to write that. Somebody had to devise that. And so that's sort of the answer to your question, I guess.
You know, what I found, you made a statement in the book, too, that said that it didn't just expand into space. Actually, space is expanding.
Right.
Clarify my thinking on that, because you said that and it just tripped another trigger in me that was like, you know what? We know a lot about everything that we see around us and looking at the stars. I mean, and compared to a timeline of humanity, we're a very educated culture, especially here in the United States. But when you say a statement like that, it's sort of like, I've never even thought about that before.
Right.
It wasn't space and bang, it expanded into space.
It's continual.
Right. Well,
that's deep.
When you think about space, what is it? If you ask the average person on the street, what is space, they're gonna look at you really weird and say, what planet did you come from, or what are you smoking this morning?
Right.
But if you think about it, that's actually a very foundational question, because in the creation story, we read Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Well, before there was the heavens and the earth, there was nothing except God. So God had to even create the space that we inhabit. And the Bible has a lot of interesting language when it talks about space. It compares it to a fabric. Which is really interesting because, they talk about now how that we live in a time-space continuum. It's actually a combination of time and space woven together. That's all Einstein's theories.
Right.
Book of Revelation talks about how that at the end of time, the space will be rolled up like a scroll. But when we talk about the expansion of the universe, or the Big Bang, what I was speaking of there in the book, I think I was giving an illustration of, well, how would that look? And oftentimes the picture that astronomers give is if you were to take a balloon and to put marks on it, and then blow up the balloon, you would notice that the dots would be growing further and further apart, and that's sort of an illustration of the fact that our universe is ever expanding,
Right.
which also goes back to the second law of thermodynamics, and
Amen.
says that, hey, somebody had to get the whole thing started off, and we're running out of energy. And if the universe is expanding, then if you run that backwards in time, then eventually it goes down to a point of mathematical zero,
Right.
spatial zero, physical
Right.
zero.
I like that too, the second law of thermodynamics, because it is also in complete opposition to evolution.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who to you is, I need to gather new DNA evolutional information, where the second law of thermodynamics, which is what we see in our world,
Sure.
says that we see a genetic breakdown of the code. In other words,
Absolutely.
we're losing genetic information. We're not getting more genetic information.
Yeah, yeah. The illustration that I've often given about the absurdity of evolution is that it's basically on par with believing that a tornado blowing through a junkyard could assemble a fully functional 747 plane,
Right.
or that an explosion in a print shop can produce the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
We all know how preposterous that is, but if you push evolution to its logical outworkings, that's really what you're believing, and going so much further. So you can see really how absurd it is.
Absolutely. I said that to a guy today. Everywhere that I go, our whole view that we see is stuff that has been engineered and created. A stop sign, obviously somebody engineered it, created it, and somebody put it in the ground there. There's nothing that I see in our world that says it just has showed up there. But anyway, let me ask you this before we go into our next break. I'm going to read this out of your book, because this was another deep question that has got me wanting to dig into more. What is time? The 5th century, and this is a quote out of your book, the 5th century theologian Augustine said, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know, but if any person should require me to tell him, I cannot." Ben Franklin once remarked, "Time is stuff that life is made of." Time, it has been said, is what keeps everything from happening at once. An article in Time magazine once claimed that, indeed, while scientists have harnessed the power of the atom, cracked the genetic code, and probed the very edges of the universe, they still don't understand time much better than St. Augustine did.
Yeah, that's a pretty profound thought.
It really is.
And when you try to define time, one of the problems that you're going to run into is that you have to invoke time to actually define it, which is sort of almost like circular reasoning.
Right.
And so, really, do we understand time any better than the ancients did? Well, maybe a little bit. We know that it's a physical property of the universe. We know that God dwells outside of time and above time. He is, as Moses says in Psalm 90, from everlasting to everlasting, He is God.
Mm-hmm.
And so time is just part of the furniture of the universe. We can't escape it. But we know, of course, that time has had a beginning. And if time has a beginning, then somebody had to have got the whole thing started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's just so cool to think about, because we're not just talking about the evolution of people in our world. We're talking about the evolution of a whole solar system, and even time, and even evolution of our laws. You and I talked about this earlier, about how just all the concepts of right or wrong are biblical,
Right.
and they come out of the book of Genesis.
Yeah.
But
one of the interesting things that I found out about time as I studied it was that's one of the great crutches that the evolutionists always want to lean on, and they say, well, we just need billions and billions of years, and eventually, if we have enough time, well, we can get a single-celled organism from a pool of primordial soup. But if you think about it, that actually works against their argument. And kind of one of the illustrations that I like to give is, imagine that you take an airplane and you have a garbage bag full of red, white, and blue confetti, and you're flying over a field and you drop that confetti out of the plane. Well, what are the chances that that confetti is going to fall to the ground and produce an American flag?
Right.
Almost impossible. But then you say, well, let's just give it more time. So you go 10,000 feet higher in the air and give the confetti more time to fall to the ground. Is that going to increase your chances of getting a flag? Well, no, it's not. So really, that argument doesn't work for the evolutionists. I think it works against them.
I agree. And I like what you had here, too, and this is out of your book. Time is a creation of God, but the clock is a creation of man. Human minds have devised ways of quantifying and measuring the passing of time.
Right.
And that's really all we can end up doing. We really don't understand it, which is what the
Right.
whole reasoning was behind
Yeah.
you putting that in your book.
Yeah, and I think Solomon probably hit it on the head in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 when he kind of gets into the mystery of time and eternity there in that chapter, and he ends up saying, and I think it's 3:11, that, God has put eternity into the heart of man. Even though we're temporal beings, we have this innate longing inside of us to transcend time, to want to know what's beyond the grave, and to live forever. And the only way we can find out and get a feeling for that existential void, that God-shaped hole, is to get in touch with our Creator.
Yeah.
And that's what, of course, Genesis is all about, and that's what Jesus is all about.
Absolutely.
Time is only a speck in the realm of eternity.
Right.
Yeah.
And eternity only includes time as long as we're here and we're existing.
Mm-hmm.
Once this life is over, then what?
Yeah.
Well,
That's the question.
And that's true. And you're talking about once our life is over.
Yes.
If you read the end of the book, though,
Right.
Revelation, obviously, there's a coming end to time as we know it.
Yes.
Sure.
And God clearly points that out and says that too. So, it's really interesting stuff. But let me do this. We're going to take a break. We're talking with Derek McCarson, who authored the book Origins, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Supporting the local community. WGNW 95.7, The Choice.
95.7 The Choice would like to thank Dry Pros for their generous support. Dry Pros has 27 years of experience in the cleaning, restoration, mold remediation, and waterproofing of homes and businesses just like yours. Whether it's a routine cleaning or restoration from flood damage or mold, the team at Dry Pros has the experience to get it done right the first time. Cleaning all types of floors, windows, fine area rugs, and upholstery, they cover it all. For more information, their number is 828-277-9511. That's 828-277-9511, or visit them on the web at www.drypros.com. That's www.drypros.com.
Programming at 95.7 The Choice is made possible with the generous support of business partners like Area 22 Guitars. Area 22 Guitars is Western North Carolina's only boutique guitar shop. Whether it's an American-made all-tube hand-wired amp like Matchless, Divided by 13, Carr, or Fargen, or a U.S.-built custom luthier electric guitar brand like Anderson, PWE, Zion, Rowan, or Gatto, Area 22 Guitars specializes in the unique needs of the discerning musician. They carry a full line of boutique effect pedals like Keeley, Exotic, Rockbox, Menatone, and Wampler. And their acoustic guitars include Breedlove, Larrivee, Eastman, Bedell, and Crafter. Area 22 Guitars, not your average guitar shop. For more information, go to area22guitars.com or call them at 828-884-2222. That's 828-884-2222.
.7 The Choice would like to express our thanks to our business supporters like Ichiban School of Self-Defense. Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts provides a safe, family-oriented environment for people of all ages and skill levels to be able to train and prosper, both mentally and physically. Whether your interests are physical fitness, self-defense, competition, or just a healthy outlet for stress release, Ichiban Mixed Martial Arts will provide the tools to reach your goal. Their programs provide a well-rounded athletic approach to martial arts in a safe, fun, family environment. For more information, go to ichibanmma.com. That's ichibanmma.com, or call them at 828-423-0662. That's 828-423-0662.
Okay, we're talking with Derek McCarson, the author of the book Origins, an in-depth study in Genesis chapters 1 through 11. And man, I've been really enjoying this time together, Derek. But I'm going to jump right back in real quick. All right, what is the deep space discovery that revealed the first moments of creation?
Deep space discoveries that revealed
It's
the
on
first
back
moments
of the
of
jacket of
creation.
your book.
Well, there are several.
There we go.
There are several.
That's what I'm talking about. He's sharp. Can't trip him.
Probably one of the biggest ones, one of the most well-known ones, is Edwin Hubble's discovery of the redshift in the stars,
Right.
which basically proved that the universe was expanding outward at tremendous speed, which of course means that if you, like I said before, run that backwards, then we come to an origin point.
Yeah.
Another great discovery was in the 1960s when Penzias and Wilson discovered the background radiation echo from the initial Big Bang. They actually took a photograph
Really?
of the radio wave echo that was left over from the initial explosion that created the universe. They, of course, both won Nobel Peace Prizes from that.
And of course, if there's a Big Bang, then there's a Big Bang.
There's the Big Banger, yes.
Absolutely.
And you could, of course, point to all different kinds of other discoveries. I mean, just look at what the Hubble Space Telescope has revealed of the immensity of our universe and the untold beauty behind the deep reaches of space. You know, that's a whole different topic in and of itself, that here is a God who has created stars of which we can't even fathom the number of. They think that the number of stars in the universe is somewhere close to about the number of grains of sand on all the beaches of our planet.
Uh-huh.
That's a educated
So
guess.
you mean there is a number that's larger than our deficit? Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to break the train of thought.
That's a great line. So you look at that and you think, surely none of this is by accident. And of course, the Bible says that God knows all the names of the stars. He calls them out by name.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you think, wow, there's untold beauty in our universe that we're just now discovering, but it's been there for years and years.
You know, and my memory isn't like it used to be, but I know when you go to the Creation Museum and you start talking about the time and the immensity and how big, and even I think it's the blue stars, they burn so hot that if the Earth, if our universe were billions and billions of years old, they would have burned themselves out. And there's so many little things you can start to talk about. The salinity of the ocean,
Right.
and how if we were billions and billions of years old, how salty it would end up being. The depth of the mud and the muck from all the rivers emptying into the stream, that if we were millions and billions of years old, it would be miles deep. I mean, you don't have to look very far to end up figuring out that the liar, Satan, is
Right.
lying and distorting the truth. Let me ask you this then, another question out of your book.
Okay.
What's so amazing about Noah's Ark? And how did they get all those animals on there? I mean, come on, man.
That's a good place to begin. Difficult to begin, as I should say, actually. When you read the Noah's Ark narrative, most of us come away with those memories of, if you were a VBS kid, you think of those flannel graphs that your teacher put up, and we think of it as a giant floating petting zoo, and we poke fun at it. But actually, if you do the study into the design of Noah's Ark, you find out this was an incredible vessel.
It was.
Almost as long as a football field.
Right.
And just the actual dimensions of it, on top of the fact that the design of it, they have actually run all kinds of studies and figured out that this thing was almost unsinkable, as far, and not in the sense of the Titanic, but as far as being able to withstand 100-foot waves.
Right.
And it was a very safe structure. Of course, it was a life barge.
Yeah.
And the instructions were given to Noah by God. So if Noah followed the instructions out perfectly, then, his life was going to be preserved. And so it's just an unbelievable feat of engineering. And you think about old Noah, spending 120 years on this thing. And the thing that is amazing to me is here is this guy doing this tremendous building project in his backyard. This was his sermon to the world. Get on this thing and be saved. Trust and have faith in God. And yet you read that story and you find out that nobody got on.
Yeah.
Except his family.
Yeah.
Noah had 0 converts. Unbelievable, when you think about it.
Right.
But that tells me that the world that Noah lived in was just as skeptical and hardcore bent against God as ours is.
Yeah.
We can present all this evidence a lot of times to our friends and our people that we know are lost, but ultimately what it comes down to is an issue of the heart. We're in moral rebellion against God.
Right.
We can move the intellectual barriers away, but ultimately what it comes down to is, do I allow God to be the God and the Lord of my life? Am I willing to give up sin?
Yeah.
To trust God, to trust a holy God.
Amen. And that's it. And I've heard that argument a lot of times with Frank Turek.
Right.
And his stuff talked about guys that he had talked to and remove the intellectual barriers, but it was still, no, I still want to hold on to this adultery that I'm in the midst of committing. So it is. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you have any advice for our listeners who may want to get deeper into biblical creation?
Yeah, there is a wealth of resources that you can check out. If you get my book, there are lots of footnotes. I've researched everything out and documented it. Run down some of those footnotes. Answers in Genesis is a great resource. A lot of their content is online. It's free. They have video content as well as articles you can read about. As far as books that really influenced me as I was reading and helped me, I would say John MacArthur's Battle for the Beginning is a great resource. Henry Morris's The Genesis Record is another great place to go to.
Great book.
I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek, another great resource.
And the great thing, you can get that on audio. I told you I didn't read that book. I listened to it driving around. Great resource.
So Christian Apologetics has really done a great work for the church in allowing us to be armed to the teeth as far as knowing what we believe and why we believe it. So, as one of my professors used to say, we don't get brownie points for being stupid. We should know our stuff and be, like 1 Peter says, be ready to give a defense to every man who asks of the hope that was within us.
Absolutely.
So that's incumbent upon us to not just sit and take our faith for granted, but to dig in and to know it.
And if you really want to do that, I'll tell you there's a great resource that I went through. Creation Science Research Institute has actually got a course that you can end up taking. I think it was $99 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they take you through all online, and they take you through a lot of this type of stuff. It was really good. I always ask this question. You know which one it is, Sam?
Yep.
Well, ask him.
Who had the most influence in your life as you were growing up?
Oh, that's easy. Obviously, it's my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I had the blessing of growing up with godly parents who really loved the Lord Jesus Christ, made a point to take their family to church. And my dad is obviously my hero. He's one of the greatest inspirations in my life, really taught me what it was and modeled before me what it meant to be a man of God.
Yeah.
I saw him reading his Bible. I saw him praying. I saw him living out his faith, and couldn't argue with that.
Yeah.
That was what, won me to Christ really was my mom and dad. And that proves to me that, the battle for the hearts and minds of our young people starts at home.
Family,
Yeah.
Starts at home.
Yeah. The great thing about the ark is that was what was saved, was the family.
Right, exactly.
And so he did live his testimony, and in the end, if all of us win our families for Christ, we've done our job.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's important. I think that's important, and that's why I ask that question each and every week. Is because dads have a very important job to end up doing, and our children should see us reading the Bible and listening to the Bible and studying the Bible and those types of things. And I think it's an important step to set. We're at about our end, but I'm going to have an afterglow thing here, and because I think it's apropos to what we're talking about. They're coming for Sam. See you, buddy. It was him. I swear off through him. Anyhow, I want to thank Derek for coming by and bringing his wife with him. She got to hang out with Kathy and Jody, and for sharing your passion for God's Word.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come. I really appreciate it.
You know, and the creation account, and for putting it down in Word even too, and for very well done. It really is. You can tell. Obviously, God has given you a lot of inspiration when it comes to this, because it's very well done. I would encourage you to look up his name, look the book up, get your hands on a copy. Here's what I'm going to do, and if Pete needs to cut it off, he can cut it off. I'm going to talk, because this is really good, and it fits right in, which is why I chose this. The Fooled Fox, right? I was sitting with Sam's brother a number of years ago, and we were turkey hunting. And we were sitting in a ground blind, and boy, I was just cutting it up, and we had a hen come into us, and we'd seen a lot of turkey sign, kept on cutting, calling on a ridge top, and like I said, a hen had come on in, and we had heard a bird gobble. And I was using a mouth call, and Kevin, he was going to be the shooter, and he was keeping a sharp eye out for a gobbler. I think, matter of fact,
I was with you.
You were with us. Now, you weren't with us.
I was over the next ridge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we kept on attempting to lure this gobbler in, and all of a sudden we catch this fox heading our direction, and we could see him work his way across the ridge, and he was real interested in what was going on over there, because I'm sure he was going to try to sneak up on a meal. Anyway, as we watched this fox work his way up the hill over a ridge to us, he kept on coming faster and deathly quiet, but he kept on coming. The closer he came, the closer he came, the quicker his pace, because I'm sure he could taste turkey dinner, right? So he moves soundlessly, he gets to the top of the hill, and he pops over the hill, and he's in our lap at this point in time. And I didn't do anything but sort of like point my finger at him real quick, and when that happened, buddy,
Scared him to death.
he was gone. And I mean, he came out of his skin getting out of there, right? Anyway, just as easily as that fox was lured into the false calls of my false calls, some Christians are lured away from the truth. Often the appeal of slick gimmicks and religious fads that come along to seem to pull some Christians away from the truth of God's Word. Each of us should remain steadfast in the truth, following good, solid biblical teaching and studying the Bible for ourselves. It's great to read Derek's book, but if I'm not feeding myself out of God's Word, then I'm doing no disservice but to myself. 2 Timothy 4:3-4 says this, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust they shall heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears. They shall turn away from their ears from the truth to hear what they want to hear." And I'm going to tell you, I'm sure it could probably be said in Noah's time too, but it is definitely true of our culture today. This is Brent Robert on 95.7 The Choice. Get outdoors, enjoy God's creation. We'll talk next week. Have an awesome week. God bless.
This is WGNW LP 95.7 FM.